I'm Miwa Messer. I'm the producer and host of Poured Over. And Nina McConigley and I met in Austin, Texas about 1,000 years ago when Cowboys and East Indians was first published by some dude in his garage. And we were standing in a parking lot. I had built a bookstore, as we were doing at the time. We were a sponsor of the Texas Book Festival. And we would build a giant bookstore in a parking lot. And we would fly in early to do this, and we would be messy and there is nothing better than building a bookstore in a parking lot. I will tell you that. And so I'm looking at this book, and I had not yet met Nina, and I end up buying a copy, and it's like the first day, and I'm buying a copy before we've even opened the registers to the public and whatnot. And then there's another point where I'm standing in the parking lot in our bookstore, and suddenly I realize I'm talking to Nina McConigley, and I'm like, I love your book. I love your book so much, because here's the thing. When you grow up in the suburbs of Boston on the South Shore, Whitey Bulger used to disappear people from the parking lot of my parents' A&P. The neighbors don't like it when I mention that, but it's true. And here's this halfie, right? I'm just like, wait a minute. My sister in arms from Wyoming. What is this? And we kind of bonded like baby ducks, like in that moment, in a parking lot in Austin, Texas. And I tear through the story collection. I tear through it, and I'm just having a grand old time. And then I wait. Like everyone else, I wait for this amazing, gorgeous, glorious, tiny, smart, sharp novel that everyone should read. How to Commit a Postcolonial Murder. And yes, that is antifreeze on the cover, and you can figure out why later, because we're going to be spoiler-free in this conversation. 10 years, 12 years? How many years between books?
12.
It was worth the wait. I will totally own that. It was worth the wait. Cowboys and East Indians has been adapted into a play. It's still in Denver, and then it goes to Atlanta, and then maybe we're lucky and we get it here?
Fingers crossed.
Okay. But Atlanta is next, right?
Well...
Ish?
No.
I don't know how this works.
They got their funding cut, so no.
Oh, man. Okay, so Denver benefits.
Denver benefits.
The reviews have been fabulous.
Our actors are amazing.
Okay. I wasn't expecting a story collection, though, to be adapted into a stage play. That's not usually how it works.
No. But I went to school with someone. He was a year above me, so we weren't really good friends because that's the way junior high and high school works. You don't know anybody in a class above you. And his whole thing is adapting plays. And he had adapted Kite Runner for Broadway. And he came back to Wyoming and he said, have you ever thought of Cowboys as a play? And I thought, no, I hadn't. And he said, I think it would be a good play. And so he kind of kept bugging me. And then we finally, one day, we did a fun little like seminar where we did a little talk where we pretended like if we were going to adapt it, what would we do? Right. And the Denver Center heard that and they said, do you have a play for us? And we said no, but we wrote it.
Okay, so it's two of the stories. It's Pomp and Circumstance and White Wedding, which are two of my favorites from the collection. Yes. How many here have read the story collection? Okay, so you know the stories I'm talking about, right? But the idea that you can strip it down to the studs, right? And a story, I mean, it's not... Adaptation is an art.
Yeah.
I think we've all experienced adaptations that felt a little wobbly. This is not one of them. But for you, having lived with this collection, which is now out in a new fancy paperback, which makes me very happy to see, you're handing it off to actors and a director and a dramaturge.
Yeah. But, you know, I think because it had been so long, I didn't really feel that precious about it. It felt like its own thing. We put it together to be one story. I didn't mind actually ripping it up. And also I'll say that I started a lot of those stories in my MFA. And so I can't help but read Cowboys a little bit now and think, oh, I would change that. And I would write it differently if I did it now. So it's kind of nice in a way. Okay. Because you get to kind of change the book.
But you also like a twist.
I do like a twist.
You like a twist in a short story. You like a twist in a novel. Obviously, I'm not telling you what the twist is, but let's face it, she likes them.
And the play has a pretty big twist. That's why we don't have an intermission in the play.
Okay.
Partly because I think some people would leave halfway through. They think it's going one way and it's not. But it was really important to my co-adapter that we had no intermission. He kept saying that the whole time we were writing. So
Okay. Plays out. You've got a couple of tiny people that were not on the planet when the stories were first being written.
Right. 2 daughters, 4 and 6.
Not yet able to make their own grilled cheese, so there is some
No.
full-on.
They can pour some cereal though.
Okay, that's
So
great.
that's
great.
good.
I'm yay, tiny people. When though did you sit down? Because we've been talking about postcolonial for a while.
Yeah. I feel like people that can write a novel naturally, they are magic people, because that is not me. I feel like I started this book so many times, and I tried it so many ways. I had a professor in my MFA who was really influential, and she hated first person narrated novels. And so I think that really got into my head as a grad student. And so even though I started this novel years after my MFA, I just couldn't help it. I was like, it has to be third person. And so I wrote a whole draft that was third person. And then I read it and I was like, this feels really flat to me. And I didn't love it. And so I thought I need to start over. And I just made so many mistakes doing this book. Like every mistake you could possibly make in writing a novel, I probably did.
Like what?
I tried to have multiple. I at one point was like, I'm going to have a bunch of teenage girls narrate this book. I'm going to have the main narrator now is Georgie, but I had Georgie's sister, I had the neighbor girl, I had the cousin talking, and then I just felt maybe I wasn't a good enough writer to like differentiate the girls. They kind of all seemed a little similar, and and it also just felt messy. And so I then thought, no. So that draft. I mean, there was a point where I shouldn't say this, but you can see my microphone already sunk. So I didn't back up, I hadn't backed up my book. And my husband was like, you need to put this all in Dropbox. And he was kind of annoyed with me. And as he was like moving everything over to Dropbox, he was like, is this all your novel? Because it was so many files and he just couldn't believe that it was, because I had messed up. I had written it not linearly. I just didn't know I really didn't know what I was doing.
Okay, couldn't we also, and I say this because her husband was is a scientist.
Yeah.
Scientific discovery.
Yes. I mean,
you kind of had to play around until you got the thing.
I think so. And I mean, it actually really surprised me that the book ended up being this kind of small and slim, because.
Oh, it was meant to be this. Oh, no.
Yeah.
It
No,
was
I
meant
think
to
it
be
was.
this,
I think
without
it
a doubt.
was, but it started out like ginormous. And I think I wanted to write a really epic book, and I think I was just in my head. At one point, I wanted to write a one-day novel. I became obsessed with I reread Mrs. Dalloway and Ulysses, and I was like, this is going to be one day in these girls' lives, and that is hard to write. Let me tell you, a one-day book.
Yeah, but you found your footing.
Yeah.
With it, so I'm glad you had the messy bits. I mean,
Yes.
but again, 12 years, right? And you're
was-
teaching.
Yeah.
You're teaching while all of this is happening.
Went through IVF, taught, got married, moved. Yeah, it was a lot of things in between.
But we still got the book.
Still got the book. Yeah.
All right, Georgie's voice, though, because Georgie, I like Agatha. I get Agatha. I may have picked I know you're not supposed to pick a favorite child, but I did. Georgie is my girl. Let's talk about her voice. Let's talk about where she showed up after many, many messy drafts, because clearly she is the heart of this thing.
Yeah, and I think when you're a writer of color, you are ready in your head. Or, like, people are always asking you who your audience is. They're like, are you writing for...
Wait, seriously, what?
I feel like in grad school we talked about it a lot.
All right,
like, who's your
grad school.
audience? Are you writing to Americans? Are you writing to Indians? Are you writing to I don't know. Everyone's always talking about that.
Okay, but you were born in Singapore and grew up in Wyoming. Like, you were the original cowgirl. You were one of the few humans I know who owns Blaze Orange and wears it unironically.
That is true. But I felt like I didn't, like, in a way, I was kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right.
So in a way, like, I thought I'm just going to write the book. I mean, this sounds so cheesy to say, but it's totally true. I'm going to write the book that I wanted to read.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, I, at one point, put a little picture of myself on my desk as a kid. And I kind of wrote to that because I was like, you're never going to please everyone. Just please this person. And so it was easier to just try to write to myself. And I hadn't read that many biracial novels. And so I wanted to write that book. And I wanted to write about what it was like what it was like to grow up biracial in Wyoming.
It's a different kind of outside. And it says the biracial kid from Massachusetts. Hi, like we're everywhere. We claim Keanu Reeves. I'm telling you this now. It's actually kind of funny watching all of the discourse. One of the actors from Heated Rivalry is also biracial, and people are like, "Oh my God, they look this." I'm like, "Yeah, it happens when you're biracial. We hit a scale of, we hit a range, but sometimes you're like, oh oh, you can look at someone and just be like." One of your parents. I don't know which one. And sometimes you can guess by name and sometimes you can't. But
yeah, my name is an outlier. McConigley is not.
That's kind of the fun of it. Though.
Yeah, it is. It is. I have a very Indian middle name, and there was a moment where I was like, should I publish with my middle name? But then I thought, I don't know.
You have nothing to prove.
Yeah, I just thought McConigley's fine. Yeah.
And also, you're a cowgirl. I mean, we even talked about going to Cheyenne. Wait, what is that?
Frontier Days.
Frontier Days, sorry. And it just never happened. We never got our act together. But, I mean, I kind of liked the idea of the two of us stomping around in cowboy boots being like, hi. We're here.
It's a fun time.
I mean, listen, part of Georgie and Agatha and this whole novel is blowing up this mythology of the American West that we still cling so tightly to. This idea that the American West is, this big, broad, very white experience.
And I feel like it kind of has been. I mean, I feel like when people talk about the American West, the first writers that come to their mind are like Louis. We were talking about it today, Louis L'Amour and Zane Grey, and or it's a very outdoorsy dude. Like I like Jim Harrison. I like A River Runs Through It, but it's like, and then on the women's side, there's a lot of writers that I love, like Terry Tempest Williams, and people who write about the West that are writing about kind of the land and place. But it wasn't until I started teaching a class at the University of Wyoming that was a post-frontier fiction class. It was non-traditional narratives of the American West that I really started to like pull books that I was like, there are people that are brown and weird and queer and telling the stories of my place.
Well, and Hernan Diaz, right? Into the Distance, love that book. But also, I will throw down right here and say John Williams Stoner, totally outranked by Butcher's Crossing. Yeah. Totally out. Butcher's Crossing, Great Western. So much love for Stoner. That's fine. Just pick up Butcher's Crossing. You will thank me tomorrow. But again, like both of the girls, Georgie and Agatha, they are products of the 1980s. They are products of a biracial marriage where everyone is kind of okay. Like there is no, mom and dad actually like each other. There is no weird. We don't know how to be at the dinner table together. I mean, there's a very cute line where it's dad would come home and then they would wander off and leave us alone. And I'm like, yep. Yeah. But they are very much of their time and their place.
Yeah, and I think they're also, I have a sister, and I do think that, I think a lot of this book's about sisterhood, but I think also the fact that they're the two biracial people in the house, like my sister is the only person that I know that understands my experience of what it's like to be biracial in Wyoming. I mean, she's it. And sometimes my mom will say things like, my mom's a very confident person and she can go into any room and be confident. And I'm like, but you didn't grow up in the minority. Like you grew up in India. Like, and my dad grew up in Ireland, and I feel like their experience was not Wyoming. And so sometimes when they tell me to like have a stiff upper lip or to be like stronger about things, I think the only person that gets it is my sister. And so I really wanted that to go into these sisters of like their experience of being biracial in this weird place and not quite fitting in is them.
Well, they don't have to translate their experience, right? That is the one thing where both of these girls, as they're moving through the world in Wyoming, they're constantly translating themselves for the people around them. And it gets exhausting. And sometimes you just want to look at it and be like, you know what? No. Google it. I am not your source for all. Google it.
And it's interesting because I think just as much as like their Indianness and the Asianness is sort of exoticized, I think Wyoming's exoticized. Like,
Sorry, I do that all the time.
Yeah, no. I mean, Wyoming's exoticized. You look at the Wyoming Tourism Board, it's like cowboys and horses and people running up the Tetons, and it's like, I was meeting someone earlier today from my hometown, and we grew up in an oil and gas town. It isn't like there's a refinery, there's a super Walmart on the ends of it. It's not like a lot of the Wyoming people expect. And sometimes when people are like, I want to visit you in Wyoming, I'm like, oh, let's meet in Jackson, like, or Cody, because it's so pretty. And I don't know, like I'm worried I'm going to disappoint them. Our mountain is small, and it's not. I think it's easy to exoticize that too,
But it's all set against a backdrop of the 80s, which, when I look back on it, Reagan, fall of the Berlin Wall, Gorbachev, the Challenger, it's been 30 years since the Challenger. 40. Sorry, 40. 30, oh, you know what it is? 30 years since the Mount Everest disaster that Krakauer wrote about. Sorry, I have Krakauer on the brain.
40 years.
40 years. We were in high school.
This is a historical book now.
Oh, stop. Okay, no. Go ahead, win me. It is technically true. This is historical fiction. So you can just all sit here and feel hurt with the rest of us. It's just like, how is that possible? But I love the idea of that being the backdrop, right? Like, I feel like we're still not having enough conversations about the 80s and what they meant. And like, suddenly we're just like, oh, right, that was a really weird moment. I mean, my brother, so I have a younger brother, and we were maybe 20 blocks north of here going to a party, and we were in one of the really old New York grocery stores, and we picked up eggnog in cans, and I kind of bought it as a joke. And so we're checking out, and we're just south of Columbia, and we're checking out, and my brother and I are making jokes about bomb shelter food. Like this, it's a giant can of eggnog, and we're buying it as a joke. And this older guy looked at us and said, "How do you possibly know about bomb shelters?" And I just, before I could stop myself, because this frequently happens, I said, "I grew up in Reagan's America."
Yeah.
And he went, "Oh, yeah, you have a point." I'm like, well, there was a movie of the week every week. Where,
I know.
The
day after frightened me forever.
Right?
It was
right?
terrifying.
They showed it to us in school. I was like, why are we watching this? This is, what is happening here?
And Wyoming we had a missile base. And so it was always, like, I was very, very, very frightened of nuclear war as a child. Like, I felt like Wyoming was a target. I don't know why. I mean,
because you had a missile silo.
We had a missile.
Yeah,
we did have a missile.
No, we didn't have silos. We had places that built submarines and battleships, but we did not have missile silos. Felt like a bridge too far.
It was. But then, to be fair, I also grew up. The town I grew up in, on the Oregon Trail, it was where Mormons crossed, and so it was the Mormon Trail goes through, and so I grew up with a lot of Mormon friends, and so bomb shelters and having preparedness was always, we used to play grocery store in all my friends' houses because we could go in their basement and take a basket and just push it on the floor and put food in, because they literally were so well prepared. And I didn't drink in high school, so all my friends were Mormon, so we would all just hang out and pretend grocery shop. That's a Wyoming thing, I think, probably.
I'm just going to sit here for a second, because I think that's definitely a Wyoming thing.
We did. Well, that we did that.
Again, we get this tiny, taut, very smart, slightly stabby book. And stabby in all the right ways. You know what I'm talking about. Where,
hope so.
It's you chipping away at ideas of girlhood and ideas of belonging and outsiderdom and all of these things, where it's like, I needed this book. Like 18-year-old me, 15-year-old me is like, thank you, Nina.
I definitely, because I made so many mistakes writing the book, I think there was a moment where I was like, what is this book about? Like, and I literally had to post it on the wall. And I started with splits because, obviously as an Indian writer, Pakistan and India splitting is like the big split that everyone talks about. And then I thought, I started with January. The book starts in January of 1986, and I thought, the big split of the Challenger was like the split that. But again, being biracial is being split. Girlhood to womanhood is a split. Like, I just started to think about all the different ways things split, and even in Wyoming, the earth. My dad's a geologist, and so growing up with geology, it was always like the surface of the land versus what's underneath was very split. I don't know. So I kept thinking about all the ways that like splits were happening, and I just wanted to write about that and think about it.
Extraction.
Yeah.
You have so many ways of coming in and around this idea of extraction, right? Whether it's geology or dislocation, human dislocation, right? Any of these things, but extraction. And then you flip it with fly fishing, and you're like, well, if you're fishing, you have to know where your feet are. Like, you can't actually extract yourself as you extract a fish.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, again, I had taught a lot of post-colonial lit classes, and I'd always, the first thing we talk about is like, what's colonialism? It's extracting. It's going into a place and taking from the land, the people, the resources, the just literally taking. And I just kept thinking about all the other ways extraction happens in the West. Of course, I grew up near the Wind River Indian Reservation. My dad is in oil and gas, so the whole of Wyoming is dependent on the energy industry of coal, of oil, of coal bed methane. And I just thought about these girls are literally being extracted. And I just wanted to talk about all the different ways, extraction happens, and and what you do with it. Like, what do you do with what do you do with colonialism? What do you do with abuse? Like, you fight back. And so I had these girls fight back. Yeah.
All right, I want to flip it for a second and go from extraction and splits to duality.
Oh, okay.
Do you see this book and Cowboys and East Indians as part of a sequence?
I'm definitely a one-trick pony. I think I definitely I write about Wyoming. That's what I'm interested in writing about. And I feel like, and I want to keep writing about my state and in different ways. And because a lot of people, when Cowboys came out, were like, you're from Wyoming? And I was like, yes, I took my first steps there. And there are brown people there. And so I felt this there are people that are not traditional. And I don't know what your image of Wyoming is, but I thought, so I do feel they're a little bit in conversation with each other, certainly. I have a lot of young women narrators also in Cowboys. But the novel does feel different because it does feel like its own, maybe just because I lived in that world so much longer.
I also, honestly, I think the stories are much more about outsiders than post-colonial.
Yeah.
I feel like you're more grounded in what you're trying to say. And part of me is kind of like, really? It took that many drafts? What? But
it did.
I believe, but at the same time, I am having that moment of the way it reads doesn't feel like you had to chip it apart 1,000 times before we got this thing. It just felt like, oh, of course you're starting out. Isn't that what we do as halfies? Like, we're trying to figure out where we stand in the world. It's like, oh, no, really? Do I actually have to explain to you that I was born in Boston? Really?
Yeah.
Again? Bostonian in exile. I have plenty of tics that are really Bostonian. I just don't have an accent.
Yeah.
I can do the accent.
But I think, not to I know we've had some talks about E.M. Forster, but there is a quote from E.M. Forster at the beginning of my book, and I put that quote there very specifically because it's a character that is in Passage to India. He's in one page of the book. He's not in he's a chauffeur driving these people around, but the quote he's biracial. And I read that book when I was 28 years old for a graduate class, and it was the first time I met myself on the page ever. Right. And I just feel like that is a very powerful experience. Like, I had never read another biracial character in a book. And so even though he's barely there, I remember writing that quote down. I'm like, if I write a novel, that's going to be the epigraph. And it is. But it and I think that when you're biracial, you're often taught to peacekeep, and you're trying to peacekeep between both sides of I hate conflict, and I think that's still my life. And I think that because I learned with both sides, I wasn't really either one. So it's like, well, I might as well try to appease both. And I think you always are centrist because you're just trying to please everybody. And I don't know. And that's kind of exhausting. And so I just wanted to explore it.
I pitched that in the river the first minute I could. I was just like, no, this is
I wish I had.
This is not for me. But looking at the evolution of the work for me, your work, I love the idea that the women, too, are quicker to figure out their stuff in some ways than the men, certainly. You know, the thing about Forster, okay, so did I just recently buy a new copy of Passage to India because someone made a joke about it? There's also a joke.
It's a beautiful, omniscient narrator.
Yes, there is also a joke about Passage to India, and I read it for the first time in college. I did not even remember there was a biracial character in it because I was so focused on the colonialism, and I was very mad about the reading experience. Polished off about 25 pages last night, and I was like, yep, okay.
Oh, but it's such a good omniscient narrator.
Yes, I will give you that, and perhaps, listen, I finally read Pride and Prejudice and Middlemarch, so maybe there is hope for me. Maybe.
I love the
Maybe.
narration.
But I think of Forster and Orwell to a certain extent as writers who are wrestling with colonialism in ways that were ahead of their time. I will absolutely give them credit for that. I want more of what you do. That's really what I'm looking for. I want more of that sort of.
Well, they probably had to write it first. So
yeah, all right. But that planting the
Yeah.
flag of like, this is the experience, right? Like, I don't have to pick a side. I don't have to play a side. That this is simply who I am, and I am standing here fully formed, my feet on the ground, and y'all can figure it out or not.
Yeah, but it's hard to get there.
Yes, it is.
But it's
really fun trying to get
there.
there.
Yeah, it's hard to get there.
Hey, do we want to talk about writing routines for a second?
Oh, sure.
So that I stop talking.
Mine are not very good.
Yes, but it's not Ian Forster.
Oh.
Do you have a writing routine?
No.
Okay.
No, I have 2 toddlers, so no. That would be no. And also, I've always been a bingey writer. I think I count reading towards writing, and I don't.
Why would you ever attempt to separate reading from writing? Like, I may spend a little much time on the internet and probably should spend less time on the internet. I'm always amazed when people are like, I just don't read that much, but I want to be a writer.
I know. Sometimes when students say that, I cry, but it's
no, writing is thinking is writing. Like, what do you mean you don't
then
read?
I do write every day then. Yeah. I do write. I read every day. But I'm pretty bingey, and I mean, honestly, like this book, I can't do a residency because I have small kids, and I'd love to go somewhere where they pack you a lunch and you get to hang out, but, and write. But I went to hotels. I went to like multiple times. I went to hotels for 2 or 3 days, and my husband was a star and watched the kids, and I would have these really bingey, I'd map everything out before I went there, and I'd just solidly write for like 3 days, and then I would emerge from the hotel. And literally, I stayed at the Residence Inn that's like 3 blocks from my house multiple times, ate waffles, drank a lot of coffee, and then like ate breakfast, and then just didn't leave the hotel the rest of the day.
Wait, what's that British phrase? Needs must?
Yeah.
Needs must. Do you write in sequence? So, I mean, I thought you always bounced around, right?
Yeah, I do bounce around. And I think, but that I will say, when I finally put the book together, I was like, start in January, go to December. Like, I just needed some scaffolding or structure because not writing in sequence was not my friend for many years, I would say.
Lots of lists. I love the way you break this up with the quizzes, but also early in the book you do this thing, and I'm going to repeat it to you, and we're just going to play a game for a second because I love this list. Mangoes.
People love a mango.
Okay.
In a book, they love a mango. I mean, yeah, mangoes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Saris.
There used to be a Facebook group called the Red Sari Club, and it was all writers who'd had a red sari on their cover of their book that were Indian writers.
Ow.
So people love a sari too.
Did you have to do sari on like Christmas, that kind of thing?
I wore saris for Easter, my graduation photos, when I had my coming of age ceremony, and that's about it.
I had to do Christmas.
Yeah.
And I even had little fake hair.
No.
That was not good. You have not lived until you've been tied into your clothing. And really all you want to do is run around. All the spices, all the food.
I mean, I think food is such a gateway for how people know a culture. I mean, to be fair, that's how I know a lot of cultures. But people also like a lot of food. They want food in books. And I felt like, I don't really cook that much. So I wasn't really going to have a lot of food. And also, to be fair, like, we did eat Indian food, but we had no Indian grocery store. We had no, we didn't. So my mom sometimes would have to go a long time without getting food. I mean, I remember going to a Chinese restaurant and she'd get white rice from just the restaurant because it was sometimes hard to get rice in Wyoming in the late. I mean, so yeah, our food wasn't particularly exciting. Now it's great because we have grocery stores, but not back then we didn't.
Wild animals.
Well, I feel like, yes, I mean, the funny thing is wild animals, I think, are more prevalent in probably, well, no, they're not more prevalent in Wyoming.
We live in a land of deer right here.
Yeah. Too
much deer.
I mean, I realized that list, when you read it like that, it feels really like I'm being mean, but.
No, she's not. Listen, this is actually, when you read this in the book, it is very funny. But I pulled out these pieces too because, I mean, they felt very true and very real, very you. Even though you're not the narrator, right? You are the writer behind it. But it just, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm in. And it's page 8 or something? Like it's really early in the book. And I'm like, oh right, this is what we're looking at. Like this is how you get defined.
I mean, I wrote these second person sections that are throughout the book, and they are talking to more of an American reader. And I feel like they maybe are a little sassy and cheeky in some ways.
They are totally sassy
so
and cheeky.
I'm just going to use those words that are nicer. But I think that, you know, and any person of color, I think also who sat through a lot of workshops and other things, like you're told to exoticize and perform your culture. And I just felt like, how do I do that when I grew up in Casper, Wyoming? Like, I don't know how to perform my culture because I didn't know any other Indians, really. I mean, I knew very few. So I don't even know if I'm performing my culture correctly. I mean, for our play, I made the theater hire a cultural consultant because I was nervous. I was like, this is my experience and I wrote it, but I don't know if I mean, I didn't grow, my mother is like who I cipher all my Indianness through. So I just wanted, I don't know, like part of me wanted to have these sections and not just Indian things. Like I talk about land acknowledgements. I talk about other things that I find problematic because I've taught at only land grant institutions where I think you get up and you read a land acknowledgement and you're like, and we're done. And it's like, no, you do something for your Indigenous students. Like, don't just read a land acknowledgement. And so I just feel like those sections were places that I could talk and have these direct address to the reader and say, look, I'm not going to give you poverty. I'm not going to give you saris. I'm not going to give you mangoes and food and exotic, you know. And same with the Wyoming stuff too. Like you're probably not going to get a horse or a cowboy hat or all the things.
And Wyoming's the story of colonialism as much as India is the story of colonialism.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the thing I want to flip because, I mean, I was, you know, cast as a pilgrim in my 6th grade pilgrim play because I'm the only brown kid in my school. And they're like, well, I guess you're going to be a pilgrim. And fine, whatever. But like you grew up with the whole Fort Marley thing in the way that I was just like, oh, Plymouth Plantation has a sibling.
Oh, yeah. Fort Casper, yeah.
Oy vey. But the idea that we can flip all of that and claim the pieces, you know, Wyoming girl.
Yeah.
Westerner. Yeah. You with the jackalopes.
I have a jackalope tattoo. I mean, I just didn't, I don't know. Like, I just feel like Wyoming just as much. I think there's a way that, I mean, even Frontier Days, we talk about it. It's fun, but it's like, there's a performance of cowboy culture during Frontier Days that I think it's fun. I mean, I like it, but it's like, but it is also like, it's not what I grew up with. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I know cowboys, but not like that. Not like, no one's wearing a huge belt buckle to school and big hat. Most of them wear baseball hats. Yeah.
You're also playing with what folklore feels like, what folklore means without having anyone scramble up a tree.
Yeah, I mean, that started because I taught an Indian lit class, and I always started the class with Ramanujan's Indian folktales, and I think one of the things about Indian folktales that I think is, I mean, I grew up hearing like Aesop's fables and Tortoise and the Hare, slow and steady wins the race. I mean, most folktales do have a lesson in them, but a lot of Indian folktales are interesting in that Western folktales often end with a marriage, and a lot of Indian folktales open with a marriage. And a lot of the behavior in the story is teaching a girl how to be and to observe caste or to do certain things. And I became really interested in that, and I thought, how did I learn to be a girl? And I thought, I mean, my mom is not a traditional Indian woman in a lot of ways, but I didn't really learn a lot from my mom. I learned it from 17 and teen and YM magazine. I would buy those magazines and religiously like read how to do things. I would do those so the reason I have all these quizzes in the book is partly because that was the instructive way I learned to be a girl. It was through quizzes. I would literally follow it and be like, I'm all A's. I need to go I need to go talk to that boy, or I don't know what it was, but I learned, that was how I learned instruction. And I think folktales are really interesting because they also lose. Like, I think back to ones that were very popular when I was a kid, like The Man with the Hook Hand. A lot of urban folktales were popular. And,
right.
But that was to teach you not to go park next to a boy in like a car. And people don't really do that anymore. So that story's kind of lost its charm, perhaps.
But all of this is a way of folding back on what becomes mythology, what becomes folklore, what are the stories we tell, what are the things that the values that we're pushing forward, right? Exactly. How to be a girl, how to become a productive girl, all of these things where you're like, oh, it becomes codified before you even, like, you think you're just hearing a story and then suddenly something gets codified and you're like, wait, what? What?
Yeah, and being a girl in Wyoming is different. I mean, we were kind of behind the trend. I mean, now you have the internet and people can see all the things and you can look on Instagram and see what's in style, but we were definitely behind a little bit, and we did have the biggest mall, but we were a little behind on fashions and things. And I think you are a different kind of girl also being in the West. I think you're tough, a little like you're taught to cowboy up and to be tough. And it is a little different, I think, in some ways. My niece now lives in London and I see her and I'm like, whoa, you're much more glamorous. And, she comes to Wyoming, she looks so dressed up all the time. I'm like, okay. But.
Ghost stories too.
Yeah, I love it.
Same thing. Like, it's a great
folktale
device, but it's a piece of this in a way. I mean, it's not.
It is. I mean, Ouija boards and playing light as a feather, stiff as a board, and Bloody Mary. I mean, those games are silly, but they're also like ways you're trying to figure out the world. I also went to Catholic school, so to do all of those things was very naughty, and like a Ouija board was particularly. 80s were satanic panic. People were very worried about Satan. I don't know why. They were always telling us someone's sacrificing a cat somewhere. I don't know. We literally had policemen come to our school to talk about Satanists. And so,
Wait, what? Seriously?
Yeah. Didn't you have that?
No, I was a pagan baby. No, it was
people,
New England. No, it was New England. They were
worried.
just like, you're just get out of the street.
They were worried about Satanists in Wyoming, so I feel like they would come. I also went to a Catholic school. And now that
I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess
that
may have had something to do with that.
But people were worried about it, and I feel like to do a Ouija board was very subversive. I mean, we felt really like we were bad to do that. But that's what teenagers. I mean, we also had to make our own fun,
Oh, we were raised by wolves.
Yes, totally.
Our wolves loved us, but we were raised by wolves. Pioneers too. I mean, listen. Georgie and Agatha are pioneers. They're pioneers in a way that maybe Lewis and Clark did not have a bead on.
Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot. I'm working on an essay collection right now, so I've been thinking a lot about the word pioneer and what I feel about it. Because again, I grew up in a town that Oregon Trail, the Mormon Trail, the California Trail, and the Pony Express went through. So it was a trail. There is literally the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, has a trail museum in our town, and people are always passing through. And I think that pioneer, I used to kind of more embrace it. I was like, my mom's a modern pioneer. Like, she came, and at one point I didn't keep this in the book, but I was literally reading this 1812 field guide to like what you should pack and how you get on the trail. And I had written some sections with the mother that were sort of comparing that packing. But then I was like, I don't know, pioneers are also kind of colonists. Like, they're coming into a place and settling, and they're just saying, I mean, I love Little House on the Prairie. It's in every single book I write or play or anything. Laura Ingalls gets a shout out because I love those books, but they are a little hard to read now. And I don't know how I'm going to talk to my girls because I do want to read to them, but I also, they're constantly just settling on land that they're not really supposed to be on. And so it's like, I don't know that pioneer, I don't know. I lately now have been turning more towards migratory and like migration and animals. But I just, pioneer is a problematic word to me. I'm figuring it out. I haven't quite worked it out.
Yeah, and I was a Laura Ingalls Wilder kid too, and I was desperate. There goes the Notebook. I was desperate to have a sod house, and my parents were like, "Absolutely not." And I'm like, "But I can do it myself." And they're like, "Absolutely not."
That would have been
I reread Banks of Plum Creek, which was my favorite of the books, and I was like,
yeah, there's some things.
Hello, 1970s America. Hi, I'd forgotten some. Like, I just had fond memories of like, let's not get leeches.
No, those books. I mean, there's a minstrel show. There's a lot of things that are not great. But then there's also a lot that I love about those books. And Laura. I mean, so I always say, like, when people are like, "Why did you write a book about sisters?" I'm like, to be fair, like Laura and Mary were my OG sisters. Like, I read those two girls and I thought they were very different. Mary was always so good. Laura was bad. Well, she wasn't really bad, actually. She was actually quite good. But they were the sisters.
She wasn't really good at conforming, though. I think
she
was
wasn't,
the larger issue was the...
And she wanted to ride a horse without a saddle. Yeah, she was... But, you know, those were the sisters I really latched onto as a kid. I loved those sisters in books. And so they were kind of the first sisters that I really loved reading. So I don't know.
Okay, so there's an essay collection in the works.
Yes.
Is there another novel? Or are there stories?
I have
I'm poking at you.
Yeah. Hopefully it won't be 12 years, but I have
I'll
it. Yes.
wait. It's okay. Don't put extra pressure on yourself.
I have an idea knocking around, but it's very different. So I think it's nice to like. I'm thinking I'm mixing it up a little bit now, but it's still colonialism, but not in the American West. So, yeah.
I'll follow you anywhere. You know this. I don't care. I'll follow you to Mars if I have to. Nina McConigley, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, New York.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Poured Over is a Barnes & Noble production. To help other readers find us, please rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts.